Haley doesn't answer Calvin's call because she's kind of busy being a trophy right now, so Calvin goes looking for them and finds a morphed Levi and Brody getting ready to race Bob and some Basher bots. The oh boy. Hello there, heroes. I'm the Orange Ranger, and I've got a new hat. I may have had a tropical storm going on outside my windows today, but do you think that was going to stop me from bringing you the latest Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode review? Well, the fact that you're watching this video should answer that question. After wrapping up the Aiden arc last week, we've got what feels like a very back-to-business episode today. So, let's take a look at the 13th episode of Ninja Steel, Ace and the Race. As Mayor McTrophy points out, it is time for the Lake Sunshine Fun-Athlon, a series of athletic events where the person who gets the most points wins a trophy. After pointing out the lake's mascot, a real goldfish named Bubbles, who clearly doesn't live in the lake, we see that things are starting off with a relay race. The Rangers are all participating, and they're split into two different teams. Sarah, Haley, and Preston are on the green team. Calvin, Levi, and Brody are on the orange team. Well, I know who I'm cheering for. By the by, I did like that both of those colors are not represented by Rangers. At least not yet. Yes, I know about that. As the Rangers are getting ready to race, Ace pulls up in a nice purple Mustang. Ace and his crew are basically Grease movie rejects, all in black leather and slicked hair and lots of makeup on the girl. Because, you know, that's how kids dress these days. Anyway, Calvin sees Ace as something of an idol, especially since the word is that he rebuilt his car's entire engine by himself. Even though the race is about to begin, Calvin tells the other Rangers that he's going to go talk to Ace real quick. Up on the Warrior Dome, Cosmo introduces Xiu Spike, and he may be my favorite monster this year. He looks like a living sneaker, and he talks with this Arnold Schwarzenegger voice, or maybe Hans and Franz wanting to pump you up. He also calls people brother, so throw in a little bit of Hulk Hogan too. Xiu Spike has 3 pretty nifty abilities. The first is that he's able to assume a human form. The second is that he has this special baton that when people touch it, it makes them ultra competitive. The third is that anybody that loses to him in a race gets turned into a trophy. We cut straight back to Calvin and Ace, and hearing Ace talk, we can tell that he's not really legit. Calvin spots an oil leak in his engine and says that Ace shouldn't have any trouble fixing it. Ace says that he could fix it, but he offers Calvin the honor of fixing it instead. Calvin agrees and says they can take the car to the school shop. Ace says that they should push it just to be safe, but then everybody gets into the car, leaving Calvin to push it by himself. Mick texts Haley to tell her that he saw Calvin pushing the car into the shop, so Levi and Brody realize that they are a runner short. I don't really think this actually matters, as we're about to see, but before they can even worry about it, Xiu Spike steps in. Now, being a monster in disguise, he's going to need a really clever name. Something that's not going to raise a lot of suspicion. Something that sounds nice and normal and human and... Bob. Bob Xiu Spike. He kept his monster name and added Bob. Good to know that he put as much thought into that as the writers apparently did. Anyway, Bob... Okay, it is kind of funny to call a monster Bob. I'm going to call him that for the rest of this review. Offers to join their team. He calls a huddle and has them both touch the baton, putting them under the spell. This causes a clear change in Brody's behavior, which is both good and not good. It's good because it's nice to see such a clear-cut change in his personality due to the spell. However, it's not good because none of the Rangers seem to notice, even though Brody's personality changed in the course of 5 seconds. And then the camera pans the starting line to Victor, sitting in a salon chair, getting all primped up. Monty asks where Victor's partners are, but he says he's running the entire race by himself because he doesn't want to share the glory with anyone. That does fit his personality, but that's not how a relay race works. And that's what I was talking about earlier. If Victor's going to be allowed to run the entire race by himself, I don't know why it really mattered that the orange team was missing a runner. The race begins with Bob giving everyone else a head start in order to showcase his speed. He passes the baton to Brody, who literally hip checks Preston into a bush. They pass their batons and Preston confronts Brody over this, but Brody just mocks him in what honestly is one of his best acted lines of the season. On Levi's section, he one-ups Brody by shoving this guy a good 20 to 30 feet into the water. They win the race, Team Orange, that's what I'm talking about, and Levi and Brody mock Haley at the finish line. Gee, you know, those two sure are behaving strangely. I wonder if this is something Galvanax is doing. Nah, I mean, they probably just started behaving weirdly all on their own. Since technically everyone in the race except Levi and Brody lost to Xiu Spike, they all become trophies. The human trophy effect is actually pretty well done, and it came off as creepy and weird. Bob reveals himself and challenges the two to a race, the stakes being changing back the trophies versus their ninja power stars. The two of them quickly agree, still being under the competitiveness spell, and actually boasting that they can beat each other too. Seeing as this is the first episode since everyone learned that the two are brothers, I was really hoping for some good sibling rivalry stuff here. Stuff like, I'm the older, better brother, and I always kicked your butt in ninja training and I'm gonna do it again. But nope, just general I'm better than you stuff, and it's actually Bob that calls the two brothers. Although seeing as he says brother all the time, he may not even have known. Boy, oh boy, did the episode take a nosedive from here. We start with Calvin in the shop working on Ace's car. Ace is being a jerk to him, not even actually knowing his name, and rushing him while he does the work. Calvin asks for Ace's help topping off the chocolate pudding, but some of it gets on Ace's hand. He says that he hates getting pudding, oil, on his hands, which is a huge red flag to the idea that he rebuilt his car's entire engine. The girl gets a rag from the glove compartment, but a receipt falls off of it. Calvin grabs the receipt and sees that it's for the engine rebuild work. Ace did not do the work himself. He laughs off Calvin's criticism, saying now he knows he can get dweebs like him to do it for free. He leaves, ignoring Calvin's warnings to not, run the car without oil in it, and it breaks down just outside. Mick comes out to talk to Calvin, and cue the Barney the Dinosaur music, because it's time for the Moral of the Day! Calvin says that he thought he and Ace were friends. Really? Calvin spoke of Ace more as an idol than a friend, and the two of them barely seem to know each other. But realizes now that they were not friends, and that friendship is a two-way street, that friends have to help each other. Mick, being the mirror that he is for the Rangers, figuratively, not literally, I keep forgetting that Mick is a shapeshifter, turns this right back around on Calvin, reminding him that he abandoned the race and his Ranger friends. Meanwhile, to up the ante on the eye-rolling, we see Monty chasing down a dog that had grabbed the Victor trophy, and the dog drops it right near the shot put. It's cool that the events are still going on, but none of these athletes competed in the relay race, did they? Are they going to have enough points? Anyway, the shot putter grabs the trophy, apparently not realizing that it's not a metal ball, and throws it far away, the trophy landing in Bubbles' tank. Victor starts hitting on a mermaid statue because I don't care. Haley doesn't answer Calvin's call because she's a little busy being a trophy right now, so Calvin goes looking for them and finds a morphed Levi and Brody getting ready to race Bob and some Basher bots. The two are still in the ultra-competitive spell, arguing over which of them is going to be the leader. They're going to be running a three-legged race. There is no leader. The Ranger trophies fill Calvin in on what's going on, and he joins the Rangers team. Brody and Levi are still fighting as the race begins, which of course doesn't really work for this kind of race. Calvin gets them to listen to him and work as a team, though looking at the way their legs are moving, I still don't think this kind of motion would work. We also find out that Bob is cheating. The Basher bots on either side of him somehow turned into dummies. Bob doubles down on the cheating by leading the Rangers through a mined river. The explosions toss the Rangers into the air, but they land on their feet after doing a roll and keep running. Anyway, they just barely beat Bob, breaking the spell and changing all the trophies back. For plot convenience and literally no other conceivable reason, a Basher bot brought the 3 Ranger trophies to the finish line, and they change back. Bob yells at the Rangers a bit, and they feel so threatened by this that they morph. We actually get a very nice grunt fight with the Basher bots. Very little fight dialogue, just mainly fight grunts. The one downside to it is that Levi does get a line about target practice, and it doesn't even sound like him at all. He sounds British for some reason. Bob throws a giant shot put at Levi and Brody, which the two don't even bother avoiding, just bust through it. The brothers Romero then use their 2 finishing moves to destroy Bob. On the Warrior Dome, Cosmo once again encourages the crowd to gigantify Xiu Spike. I guess it's Sweeps Week or something. Levi and Brody once again say they can handle this themselves, with Calvin saying he'll provide backup if needed. Weirdly, Levi summons both of his Zords, but only uses the Robo Rider Zord. However, Bob is too fast for them, so they do call for Calvin's help. His Nitro Zord tosses some Caltrops onto the field, which keep Bob from running around. They form the Ninja Fusion Zord. Nope, didn't change the name. Guess we're stuck with it. And Bob says that's bogus. You know, I kind of tend to agree. That's really far too big of a combination to form against a small, fast, speedy monster. But it really doesn't matter, since Zord fights are apparently boring and the Rangers go straight to the finishing move, blowing up Bob again. The episode ending is an absolute yawn, a copy-paste of every Moral of the Day episode this season. Calvin apologizes to the Rangers tell him he's still awesome, resolution of Victor and Monty's comedy, as Victor's trophy for some reason takes far longer to change back than any of the others, and he grows back up out of the fish tank. Other than Monty's nigh-on rapturous joy at seeing Victor again, nothing about the end of this episode mattered in the slightest. Stars. Yay. Episode 13, Ace and the Race. Pros: the trophy effect was really cool, Bob's Xiu Spike was a fun monster, and cons: a scattered episode with too many plots, the return of the Moral of the Day, and another anticlimactic Zord fight. A very unfortunate return to form reveals what Ninja Steel is without a more compelling storyline. Ace in the Race gets 2 Ninja Stars out of 5. So yeah, the pros are pretty light on this episode. I did think the trophy effect was really cool, surprisingly good for Power Rangers. It was an excellent use of makeup, special effects, green screen, etc. And being turned into trophies is some silliness that harkens all the way back to MMPR. And old Bob Xiu Spike was a fun monster, probably my favorite of the season thus far. I loved his design, and I really loved his accent. I actually wish he had kept the accent while in human form, because that would have been even funnier, and it would have given the Rangers a "I knew something weird was going on" moment. But this episode really feels like 2 smaller subplots that were mashed into one episode because they couldn't carry it themselves. The Calvin stuff with Ace feels unconnected to anything else. It just seems like something else that was going on while the Rangers were dealing with Xiu Spike. But when the Rangers were dealing with Xiu Spike, this felt more like a Romero Brothers focus episode than a Calvin focus episode, so really the focus of the episode felt a little too divided. Calvin's subplot being unconnected to anything made the Moral of the Day feel even more forced. I mean, they really do treat this like Sesame Street or Barney the Dinosaur, as I keep saying sometimes. Feeling like the show is being aimed at really little kids, like preschool level. The music slows down and we get serious as the characters talk about what they learned today and how they've changed for the better now. I actually timed it, and the Zord fight, starting from the time that they summoned their Zords, lasted about 100 seconds. That moral of the day scene with Calvin and Mick lasted nearly half that long, 41 seconds. I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm unique, or in a small group of fans, for wanting the Zord fights to be long, drag-out, knock-down affairs. To me, the Zords are the coolest part of the show. I don't understand why they keep minimizing it. We get those kind of Zord fights once a season, maybe twice. And the thing that really baffles me is that in most occasions, if not all, the Zord fights are Sentai footage. Don't you want to use more of that? If this pros and cons section, and indeed this episode, felt a little shorter than usual, that's because it is. There's just not much to this episode. As I said, it feels like two subplots that were rammed together to make one episode because neither of them could carry an episode on their own. So neither of the subplots actually felt complete, and this episode felt like a waste of time. I hope Ninja Steel gets to another big, long arc really quick, because it is pretty clear that this show does not handle filler well. Effortless segue, let's take a look at the 14th episode of Ninja Steel, The Royal Arrival. A mysterious princess and her royal guard arrive on Earth to challenge the Rangers. That's going to do it for a very special Hurricane Irma edition of another Power Rangers Ninja Steel episode review. Thank you, heroes, so much, as always, for watching. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below. I think it's somewhere over here now. In the comments below, let me know what you thought of this episode and of my review of it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel to see all my videos, and ring that bell, get your notifications set up, so you get notified of whenever I post brand new videos, such as this episode review. This is unfortunately soon after last time, but instead of my requesting donations for my channel, I'm going to have to once again request that you folks donate to charity if it's at all possible for you. South Florida, which is where I'm actually from, was pretty devastated by Hurricane Irma, especially the southwestern portion of the state. I'm from the southeastern portion of the state, to tell you guys that. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but a lot of people are still going to need help. Now, I'm going to give you guys the same disclaimer that I ended up giving you last time. Do your research, put your money wherever you're comfortable putting your money, maybe look up a local South Florida charity, all that stuff. And until next time, heroes, may the power protect you. Bob. No. Well, it's good to know that he put about as much thought into that as the writers apparently did. And you see, kitty? Well, it's apparently good to... Squeak. Ah, I'm so frustrated. He calls a huddle for the team and has them all touch the baton. Not all, just has them both. There's only two of them. They win the race. All right, Team Orange, that's what I'm talking about. And those two people. All right, Squeak, there you go. I have a legitimate blooper that wasn't your fault. They win the race. They win the race. That's what I'm talking about, Team Orange. And they mock... Seeing as this... Meanwhile, to even... We see Marty... Marty? Did I write... I think I wrote Marty in the script. Monty, okay. I forgot his name. That's how much I care about those two. I called him Marty. His name is Monty, not Marty. And finds a morphed Levi and Brody getting ready to race Bob! I forgot the name Bob. The Ranger trophies fill Calvin in on what's going on, and he joins the Rangers team. There's also Levi and Brody being ultra competitive and arguing the leader the points that goes before that. Not good to... I'm actually kind of glad I screwed that up, because again, had no meaning. Calvin gets them to listen to him and work as a team. Weirdly, this time Brody summons... farts! Brody summons farts. The brothers Romero use their two finishing moves to finish off Bob. Levi once again summons beeping of all sorts. And it would have given the Rangers up. I knew something weird was happening. Farts! But the subplot with Xiu Spike made this feel more like a Romero Brothers subplot episode than a Calvin subplot episode. So, oh, and yeah. And Calvin's sunplot? It's Calvin's sunplot. I think, that episode of Dino Charge last year, or Dino Supercharged, whichever it was, where the sun was bad for some reason that I already forget. That was Calvin's sunplot. If this pros and cons section, and indeed this episode, felt shorter than usual, that's because it was, and it is, and all of that stuff.